Since, as you know, Ed stepped down as president, we did have elected a new president. And he unfortunately couldn't be here tonight because he's traveling for work. And that's Paul Ehrlich. So you're stuck with me tonight to make the quick announcements and get the show on the road. Just a couple of things I wanted to remind you about. We have a June 17th meeting. We're going to have Bob Benke is going to talk about glue, the 5 steps for successful glue. He's from Franklin International. You might have heard of it. Tight bond glue. July 8th is our annual picnic at the Roseville Central Park. We have free food, beverages. Starts at 6 o'clock until we get tired and go home for the most part. August meeting, we're going to have an intro to marquetry by Al Frank. So that's some of the stuff we have coming up. Tonight we have 4 of the exhibitors from the 41st. If you guys could be quiet for a minute. Just try for a minute, thanks. We have 4 folks from the 41st Northern Woods exhibition. We got Mark Laub, Cale Caboth, sorry Cale if I mispronounced your name, Mike Berner, and Greg Flanagan. First up will be Mark Laub. Some of you might know him. I don't know. He's relatively new to woodworking. He's been trying really hard. So I encourage him. Try to make him feel like he's welcome and that he's doing a good job. This is his piece, as you probably know, if you were at the Northern Woods exhibition. It's one of 2 pieces that Mark had in the show. This is Curiouser and Curiouser, and he'll tell you more about it. His other piece was called Pages Turning, Cut and Burning, which was a glass and caged scissors shaped cabinet, which he won Best of Show Award. And on this piece, he won People's Choice Award for this one. So Mark will go first, and then we'll have Cale with his resurgence table, but I'll introduce Cale real quickly. So if you want to get, we have to do the drawing first. I forgot. Let's do the drawing. We have a few things to give away.
Everybody got tickets.
All right, last 3 numbers are 721. Okay. What do we want to, let's see. Do you have hand planes? Do you have hand planes?
Yes, I do.
Okay, how about a 2-inch blade from Lake Erie Tool Works? They're Magna Cup blades. Those are really supposed to be nice blades. Yeah,
Thank you.
They're very nice blades. They had I haven't tried one myself, but they've gotten good reviews. All right. Let's see who else we got. All right, last 3 years, 718.
Yeah.
Who's that? Roger? Roger? Oh, back here. Oh. How about blade or no?
Sure. Not having a blade. It's trouble to keep
2 3/8.
Wonderful.
Thank you, sir.
Try to decide what width I've got.
1 3/4. All right, let's do the tight bond glue. Everybody needs glue. I don't know if you need that much of it, but 716.
That's me. I got one last time.
Okay, all right, we'll do another one. How about 698? Dan? You can give some to your buddies, Dan. All right. Then we got a boxes of McFeely's fasteners that we can give away. 695. There you go.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay. $701. And that's for another blade. There you go. 708. And that's going to be, who's that? This is for a gift certificate for $150 towards Tim's Lumber and Sign. And then we had, let's see, we got a framing plate too. So we'll get rid of that. 716. Can you use that? Look at it. I know. That doesn't seem hardly right. And then we had a donation of a plane from, who gave this to me? I forget. Who was it, Doug? Doug donated this to give away. And that would be 714. Sure. Good. And that's it. That's all we got. All right. Now it's, yes, sir.
Those are really heavy.
Yes, sir.
Do you want to raffle it off so we don't have to walk it back and forth? More times?
Yeah, let's do
I've
that.
had to do it
Okay.
a couple of times already.
All right, let's do that. Let's do one more giveaway. Bob, and what is it, Bob?
It's a Rockler stand. It's one of their metal stands. It doesn't have wheels on it, but the size is 32 tall, 36 to 24.
So it's a stand that you got to put together.
It's a good size stand.
Yeah. 723. There you go.
I got something heavy. Bob will carry it.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Awesome.
One more time.
Thanks.
One last time.
Thanks.
Roll it down the steps.
All right. Thank you. So now we'll have Mark come up and talk about his piece. Oh, yeah, we should ask. Is there any people here for the new time? I think we had one that said that we're here for the first time.
Yeah.
What's your, just stand up and your name and.
My name is Kim. I'm very much a beginner, but
Good. Good.
My first time.
Oh. He's going to talk about his table. Yeah.
Mike, I've been working for a while, but George at the Expo. My name is Bob, and yeah, I've been working for a while.
Good. Good. Yeah. If you got any, it's good to see new faces at the meetings. And if you have questions, make sure to ask one of these guys here, or myself or one of the board members about the guild or about these guys about woodworking, because
They're friendlier than they look.
yeah, they are friendlier than they look, and they're smarter than what they look too. Yes. Oh yes, right. Your books.
Just to let you know, there's a box in the back that I put there. I've been helping a former guild member get rid of her tools. And she gave me a whole bunch of books and said, take them to a guild meeting and give them away free. It also included this book, and I can't give this book away free. So if somebody wants the Bible, I'll do it by Hurley. We'll sell it to you for $20. This is an exceptional book. Not familiar with it. Section wood inside and out, talks about shrinking, talks about anything you could imagine. So if you want a good book for half price, sold, okay. It's normally $40, so that's a bargain.
But Dale, you have to know how to read, buddy.
I'm learning that also. I'm out.
All right. Now, without further ado, we can have Mark come up.
There's some faces I recognize, many that I don't. My name is Mark Laub. I'm one of the old timers in the guild. I joined in year 2000. And at the same time, I bailed out of business and started my own little woodworking company. So I've been a pro for 25 years. And what a great journey it's been. I've met marvelous people. Um, I've showed my work in galleries and museums all over the country. I took top honors at the Smithsonian twice. And I want to say right up front that I couldn't have done any of it were it not for my pal Bob Krabby. Many of you know Bob from Forest Products, but Bob has worked with me for going on 15 years, Bob. And we've built a lot of stuff, one crazier than the next. And Bob's a great woodworker, he's a great artist, and a good friend. So thanks, Bob, for everything you've done.
Well, thanks for letting me come along on your journey.
That's right. So I did the Northern Wood Show for the first time in 8 years. I had an illness, but I'm hitting on all 8 again. And I did get, I entered 2 pieces. This one got the People's Choice, and the other one, much larger and more complex, got a Best in Show. And the thing that struck me about a comment that one of the judges made, who I've known a long time and really respect, he said, "Wow, I don't have anything to say. You know what you've done." And so that type of feedback to me is much more important than, yeah, this chair is comfortable. I like to build pieces that raise your emotions. And I thought that today, rather than on about this piece, how many were at Northern Woods? So you've seen this piece already. And I'll show it afterwards for those that weren't there, but it follows the same formula that I've used for 25 years. I like to create an object that's compelling, it's provocative, and you don't know what it is. When you do as many shows as Bob and I have, and you got a booth, you got a 15-foot booth, you got about 15 seconds to capture someone's eye or attention, or they're lost to the other couple of hundred exhibitors. So whatever you do, whatever I do, I want to make it memorable at first glance. If I can encourage a detour for people to look at it closer and say, what the hell is that thing? I get the opportunity to show them the interior. And the interior is where true beauty lies. True beauty lies within. And so there are kinetics involved to getting to the interior. And once you're there, you're well rewarded for your detour. And hopefully, maybe somewhere down the line, you'll buy something from me. So that's kind of the formula that I've used for a long time. I'm 77 now. Shit. I have no idea where the time went. But I meet a lot of, I know the old timers, but I meet a lot of the young guns, the young gunslingers that are they're fearless and they're trying to make their own mark in this competitive art world. And I remind them that I might be old, but what I bring to the table, you young gunslingers, I bring very experienced hands, a crazy heart, and a miswired brain. And when you put those 3 together, you get magic. And so that's kind of what I'm going to be talking about tonight. I'm not going to waste your time going through everything with this piece. Yeah, it's got gorgeous wood. There's a lot of materials. The inlays, when you see them, were all done by hand. Incredibly time consuming. But instead of talking about that, I want to talk about something Now, something that I think is much more important. Have you guys heard of Wendell Castle? Yeah, you seen the ghost clock at the Renwick? You should look at it. Anyway, Wendell Castle, it's been floating around for decades. Once upon a time, had his 10 adopted rules, his 10 adopted rules that apply to any art endeavor. So I've got my 12 adopted rules that have been a guiding force for me for some 25 years. Maybe you'll find some value. You'll have to excuse me, I'm taking meds and I got this chronic dry mouth. So, are you ready? 12 of them. Pick up a notepad and a pencil because I'm tossing you pearls. My rule number 1, find your passion and tell a story about it. When you're building something, whether it's a gift or whether it's a commission or whether it's a spec piece that somebody will buy, everybody wants to know as much about the artist, the maker, as they do the piece. That's why they're buying expensive stuff. It isn't just that the object is good, it's the story that goes along with it is good. And it creates a connection between you, the recipient of the object, and the piece itself. And if you're just kind of bumbling along making something and you don't know what it means to you personally, you're missing a bet. My passion is music. And so every single piece, almost every piece that Bob and I have built for a long time are names of songs, songs that meant something to me as I was building it. And all of a sudden, the feelings that I had that came from that music were somehow transferred to the object and then transferred to the buyer or the recipient. Make sense? The best story, the master at telling stories is David Lane. You know David Lane? Man, years and years ago, he built a piece based on Slaughterhouse-Five, the Kurt Vonnegut anti-story. He called it Billy Pilgrim's War Chest, Billy Pilgrim being the protagonist in Slaughterhouse-Five. I still get goosebumps thinking about it. It wasn't that it was immaculately constructed as David does. It's the story that piece told. It made a social statement more powerful than any other piece of woodworking I've ever seen. And think about it, that's a long time ago, and I'm still yammering on about it. I think you can adopt that idea yourself in your own work. My rule number 2, feed your curiosity. There is a link between originality and how curious a person you are. This piece is named Curiouser and Curiouser. It's an Alice in Wonderland themed piece. I was minding my own business in my studio. Many of you are too young, but an old song by Jefferson Airplane came on called White Rabbit. Yes. And it starts with a bass line. By the time that bass line was done and Grace Slick started singing, I knew that I was going to do something about Alice in Wonderland. And I did. And so these connections, if you stay curious, it can really help you along. I recommend that everybody go down every rabbit hole they can find. because you don't know what you'll find there. What I found exploring rabbit holes, I had a good opportunity to reflect on my life, what I stood for, what I didn't, but also reflect about the little time that I have left in this consciousness, what I dream about becoming, and the obstacles in the way. It reduced my fear of failure, but without a curiosity to explore these new avenues, you'd miss all of that. So that's something that I would encourage you to employ in your own woodworking behavior. Number 3. Thank you. Oh, number 3, this is a good one. Oh, they're all good. Start seeing what you look at. That should be obvious. There's anybody hear about the frequency illusion? It's a phenomenon that when you look at something carefully and you really relate to it, you'll see it more often. You think you see it more often. People use the example of a red car. If you love red cars, you'll notice red cars more, and you'll say, Jesus, they're making a lot of red cars. But really, the frequency of observation is the same. It's elevated by your perception of it. I do a lot of that in my woodworking. I see things and automatically try to connect it to an object that I'm making. The elevators in the Chrysler building inspired me to make a cabinet. Art Deco jewelry, once you start looking at it, the geometry is so regulated compared to Art Nouveau, the predecessor art type, that I'm intrigued by it. Airtight clothing from the 20s and 30s have exquisite lines that I translate or try to translate into cabinetry. Dale, this one's for you, ma'am. The front fender skirts on a Delahaye, 1948, inspired me to do a cabinet. So you see, if you start seeing what you look at, it won't just be an object. It'll be an object that you might be able to use in your repertoire of work. How am I doing? Am I pissing anybody off yet? Just wait. Okay, number 4. Your feelings are more important than technical proficiency. So there, I said it. Your feelings are more important than your technical proficiency. And I like to quote 2 musicians. Charlie Parker. You guys have heard of Charlie Parker? A jazz sax player in the 30s and 40s. Maybe the best improv jazz player, sax player ever. He's quoted as saying, first you learn the instrument, then you learn the music, and then you throw all that shit away and just play. I don't need to explain that. You kind of get it. The same thing translates to our type of art form. Neil Young. Tell me there's nobody in this room that doesn't know Neil Young. Anyway, my favorite Neil Young in Guitar Player magazine, he said some time ago, nobody cares if you got good technique. Nobody gives a shit if you know how to play scales. What they care about is the emotion in the music. If you have feelings that you can convey, in Neil Young's case, by playing a guitar, you've accomplished something. So my advice to you all is quit spending so much time on technical fabrication. That's a given. Pay attention to the emotions that you're trying to convey, or what emotions you would like to see the viewer of your object feel. There's guys I know who are really good. Their technical proficiency is primo. They can play scales, but you know what? Their pieces don't grab me. Very well done, but forgettable piece. What a waste of your time and talent. If you're going to be worrying about technical proficiency, but not paying attention to the feelings that you're trying to convey, you're missing something really important in the art and craft world. Kind of along the same lines. Number 5, fabrication should be an afterthought. I know so many people that have an idea and they don't even explore it because, oh man, the joinery is going to be too complex, and like you got intersecting ellipses, and I just, all of this stuff is mind-blowing. Fabrication in my world is a means to an end. And the end is to have an artful object that people enjoy looking at. End of story. I've been in business for 25 years, been a woodworker my whole life, but professionally for 25 years. In those 25, and my stuff has a tendency of being complex. I haven't had one person ask me about any of the trick joinery I use. Anybody ask you in a booth, Bob, about how that joinery? They don't care. They don't care. If there's trick joinery and stuff, we're doing it for ourselves because we like that stuff. But don't let the complexity of the joinery or the shape or the sculpting or whatever it may be thwart you from following your dream. Because if you don't follow it, nobody else is gonna. Roger Knudsen, you guys know Roger? He's got a saying that captures it all. And it's, if you can think it, you can build it. If you can think of the idea, you can build it. Because the dirty little secret amongst us woodworkers, woodworking just isn't that hard. It really isn't. You can do some crazy stuff, and I have, but it isn't that hard. I've not been stumped. And if I've not been stumped in 25 years, you guys should be able to do it too. Okay, number 7, we're on the home stretch, guys. Details are where the magic lies. People say, well, the devil is in the details. No, the angels are details. Different details have a synergistic effect on the overall feelings that you can create from your object. My favorite story, excuse me, years ago, I was getting so sick and tired of everybody talking about how hand-cut dovetails are the hallmark of a good craftsman. Bullshit. Anybody can do a hand-cut dovetail. The world has gone way past that. So I built a cabinet where I didn't have dovetails. What I had was butt joints on the sides and the front of the drawer. I drilled holes in the side and buried big screws. Not too elegant, huh? But I covered the screw hole with a little bit of mother of pearl dot. And then I inlaid a stylized dove. And the tail feathers on that dove each met one of the mother of pearl dots. Killer. I got so much more enjoyment doing that, and it was basically a big screw you to all the guys that measure the quality of a piece. You know, they look at the dovetails as their scribe line and all, and I think the world has gone past that, you guys, and you could do something that speaks to your own talent, not somebody else's opinion about what you should be doing. The other thing, before I leave that, is when you're building something, particularly case goods, there is one place where your eyes and your fingers, your tactile feeling intersect over and over and over again. Where do you think that is? Drawer pulls. Drawer pulls is the one place you could do an exquisite job, but if you sell yourself short on drawer pulls or door pulls, you're missing the chance that that new owner is going to be touching that repeatedly, is going to be looking at it to guide their hands and probably ignore everything else. So I've seen some pretty nice pieces, and guys, they must get tired or sick of it or something, because they go on Lee Valley and buy some, crappy factory made handles, and they're selling themselves short. You could get a lot, or you could get a long way on a little thing like that. Okay, number 8. Function always follows form. I didn't get that backwards. Function in my world always follows form. If I can create an object that has a pleasing emotional response, but it might be uncomfortable to sit on, fine. I'm going with the pleasing emotions. If you could do both, that's the best of all worlds. And there's some people that make exquisite furniture that's just gorgeous to look at. Robert Erickson in California, he hits it both. So strive for both, but if you have to err or fall over on one side, I'm going with the theory that the world does not need any more furniture. It doesn't need any more baby cradles. I don't care how many grandkids you got, unless you can make the object look pretty and graceful and pleasing. I'll cut this off, but I'll talk to you after class, Dale. I recently started looking close at a 1935 Auburn. The details are jaw-dropping. And those were the days where the designers ruled the roost. The engineers were on the basement floor and the designers were on the top floor. And if you look at an Auburn, the first thing you notice is a steeply raked windshield that's about this high. It looks like you're looking out of a tank porthole. And I can just hear the engineers say, well, you got to raise that windshield up there to have enough headroom. So what? The car was built that way. And if you look at the windshield bezel, how it flows around to the front of the windshield, continues down the center of the hood, and integrates the whole thing with a hood ornament. It's jaw-dropping. So does that have any function whatsoever? No. It's all about form. And if you want to make something that has a memorable reaction, I'd pay more attention personally to form than I would with function. Okay, we're almost there. This is the one that'll piss you guys off. And I feel strongly about it. Turn off your computers and trust your own eyes. I happen to fall into the camp that I don't think technology and art mix very well. You know what? If you're building 300 chairs like Tom Mankey did, and you need a CNC to bang out parts, fine, I understand that. I understand computer technology in other fields, but in one-off art, like I do, I don't use it. Um, and I think it'll get even worse. Not in my lifetime, but now you have AI, which isn't about fabrication, it's about design. So where do you draw the line? I see that Sotheby's sold Ada. Anybody hear of Ada the robot? They sold Ada's art of Gearing for $1.3 million. Freaking robot. I think the line is getting very blurred. I don't have any trouble whatsoever competing with other human beings. I'm pretty good at what I do. I should be. I've been at it a lifetime. I can't compete with CNCs, lasers, or worse yet, 3D printers. So if you're employing that, that's fine. That's your business. I respect that. But there's something about it that doesn't work. I was at a reception years back. You guys know George Nakashima? His daughter, Mira? I was at a reception for Mira Nakashima. I'm pretty active in the American Craft Council, and she was being inducted as a fellow. So at the reception, I asked her, excuse me, what do you think of computer technology aiding people in creating objects? And she had the perfect answer. Her old man wrote the book, The Soul of a Tree. She said, well, I think that would take the soul out of my dad's trees. Perfectly said. I'm falling on that side of the road. Trust yourself. Everybody's got great eyes. Use them. Number 10, we're on the home stretch. Stop reading only woodworking magazines. God, you guys. I'm basically self-taught, but the most important lessons I learned in crafting something didn't come from woodworking magazines. I subscribe to fine woodworking and all the same stuff that you guys do, but I don't learn much from it. I learn more by looking at what jewelers are doing or what potters are doing. And I shouldn't overlook turners. Turners are doing some incredible stuff. Fashion designers, what they're doing with the cuts of fabric and the way the lines work with each other is easily adopted in our woodworking. Custom cars. God, when I was hospitalized, Charlie, you'd bring down these custom car magazines and made the days go better. So enough said about that. Number 11, eliminate good enough from your vocabulary. Man, the most important input into the object that you're making, I don't care what it is, the most valuable input into that is your time. You can always buy another piece of wood, do this or that, but you can't buy back time. I wish I could, but you can't. So honor yourself. Respect your time that's going into it. And don't say, that's good enough. You know, the deal is, in the art and craft world, B+ is very well covered. Let me rephrase that. A+ is very well covered. There's some really good people out there. I try to strive for something more than an A+, because my time is valuable to me, just like yours is to you. I don't have much left. So I really want to pay attention to creating something that I can say I did the best job. Not, well, it's good enough. It's good enough. I remember years ago, Tom, I was working with you on the 2009 Steinway art case piano. I was flattered that you chose me. And I was nervous. I was really nervous. Tom's like a quintessential perfectionist, so I wanted to copy my hero. And I think he knew I was nervous because at one point in time, he said, Mark, you're doing okay. Remember, it's only a Steinway. It's not as if it's a Baldwin. And you know what? That kind of relaxed me, and I could strive to do my best without being worried about it. So the final one is, I don't need notes for it. The final one is just because your spouse or your significant other says your work is great, doesn't make it so. The reality is they're probably just trying to avoid domestic disputes. So in comes the guild. And here's my pitch for, I don't need to pitch you guys. You can set up your own posse, especially you new guys. The guild is a great place to meet like-minded people, and you get to put your posse together. You don't have to rely on your spouse looking at your month-long effort and say, interesting. Well, you can talk to professionals and like-minded people. And that's the biggest thing that the guild has done for me for all of these years. Guys like Tom, whenever there's a veneer question, well, you call Tom, you don't even think of anybody else. You guys can develop your posse too, and maybe have an easier chance producing stuff that people will look at and they'll say, oh, they recognize you as the maker. So I'm done. And I didn't get thrown out.
All right, next we have Cale. He's going to do his resurgence table. Cale trained at Iowa State University, where he designed furniture that's now housed in the university's museum. And he continued at the Center for Furniture Craftsmanship in Maine. Work has been featured in 500 cabinets, 500 tables, recognized with design awards at the International Woodworkers Fair. And he's exhibited at the American Craft Council show in St. Paul. He was honored to be recognized as part of the Regeneration Fine Woodworkers Under 30. That's very impressive, Cale. And his table won Best in Show and the Peer Award.
Well, I don't know how I'm going to follow any of that up. Yeah, as he said, I started my journey. I started my journey following kind of my grandfather's footsteps. He was a woodworker, maker, home builder. Learned to work with my hands from him. So it's been an interesting journey so far. There has been a period of time where I haven't made anything in a long time, and this was kind of my way back into things. Parts of this have been sitting in my basement for 12 years, so it's just good to be back building and just feel honored to be able to talk to you guys, and that you guys, as my peers, chose this for the peer award. Means a lot. So I don't have a hard time following up Mark, because I'm just winging it right now. So honestly, I guess if anybody just wants to ask me questions, that's probably the easiest way to go.
Talk about the veneer on the top.
On the top. Okay. Well, if you haven't seen it, this table is my version of a tilt top table. It was inspired by the piece that I made for the Woodworkers Under 30 exhibition. And so this is just my play on another version of a tilting table. I have never seen one that tilted and turned. So this was my play on that. This is a walnut burl veneer. There is, let's see here, I think there's 16 pieces in the top of that. You may not be able to tell, but the actual layup of it is an X, very much like the base. running from corner to corner. I guess, yeah, it's just a radial match. It took quite a while to figure it out, and I screwed it up too, but hey, if you can't tell, that means I did something right.
Did you machine the brass hardware?
No, well, the hardware is it's actually quite simple. It's literally a couple of threaded inserts. That's really all it is, and a couple of bolts. So, yeah. The hardware in here is actually, it's a couple of threaded bolts that are threaded in and epoxied in and then cut off the heads. So yeah, but the rest of it is just quite a bit of just thinking, and literally that came about the night before the show. So it's kind of thrown together. It's kind of crude looking. It's not as pretty as the rest of it is, but it, I needed it to function like it was supposed to function in my head. So this is what we got. Something else I do that maybe not everybody does, but even on the bottoms of my tables, I tend to try and do the same thing as I do on the top. I find it, I feel as a woodworker that the underside is often left unappreciated, but me as a woodworker, I always want to look under things, and you guys can all attest to this. You want to look at the back of it. You want to see how it was made. You want to play with it. So for me, I've started to just do that on all my stuff. Is whatever I do on top, I'm going to do on the bottom. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm intrigued with the feet. Is that zebra wood?
Yes, it is zebra wood.
How did you attach?
Well, threaded rod and epoxy. So, yep, and that's also how this is attached to the top of this. So, uncommon joint, but it's been out there. Go ahead.
The way the legs come together looks like custom-made pool cue. How did you ever clamp that together?
Actually, it goes together quite easy. Oh, he was asking how I managed to clamp all this together at once. Well, in this one, I have made three-legged versions of that where they all have to come together at once. Honestly, some good old-fashioned quick grip clamps with the rubber, they work quite well because they grab a hold pretty well. Yeah, in this case, this is actually split down the middle, so you can make it in two halves. For join those two halves together. They're just held together with biscuits and a lot of surface area, really. The joints are just cut on a table saw and then shaped out by hand. All these legs are shaped completely by hand, using a spoke shave and a draw knife. So, but this has become kind of a signature style of leg for myself. I've been doing that leg shape since I was at the Center for Furniture Craftsmanship back in like 2008. So it's just it's a design element in my work. It seems to be reoccurring now. It's just something I do. Go ahead. Yes, in this case they are, yes. I have done other tables where they are tapered laminations and things like that for structural purposes, but in this case, each one is a singular piece. Yeah. I believe there's 16 different pieces in the top of it, but I can't. It's kind of hard to, but yeah, it's split here, and then you get them through the middle, and then they come through here, through here. Yes, I use a pair of mirrors just taped together, laid on top of a stack of veneer. And in this case, since I was trying to emulate this X, there was quite a bit of time fussing to get the right angle, and then basically cut a wedge that I could just stick in the mirror, bring the two together, and then position it on the stack of veneer until I got the pattern that I desired. It makes like a kaleidoscope effect, and you can It's an effective way of determining what your top will look like prior to actually cutting it out. So, you know, you can, as you widen it, you can have just 4, or you tighten it up, you can get more and more. Well, this all would have started out as one leaf. And then I take a pair of mirrors and I tape them together, and then I set them on top of that veneer and look into the mirror, and inside of the mirror, it's like a kaleidoscope, and it will show the pattern or the layup. In this case, the layup, it showed me that there would be X number of, you can count it inside the image that you see. You can count how many pieces it takes to make the full rotation, as it were. So like you can move it, and you can go from like 4 to whatever, depending on how tight you bring it in. So it's a fun technique to use. It's pretty, you know, go to Menards and get some cheap mirrors for, you know, $10 and throw some tape on them and throw them on top of a stack of veneer. And in this case, I cut my veneer using a veneer knife, or a veneer saw, not a veneer knife, a veneer saw using a specialized veneer clamp that I make, that is just like it's a hinged, it's like a hinged sheet. It's like 2 sheets of plywood or whatever you want to use, MDF, but they're hinged, so they clamp it together. As you apply pressure to it, it'll hold the whole stack tight, and so I can cut all of them at once. But anything else? Anybody has any other questions? And the pieces on the edge were hand fitted and sanded in to match the original shape.
What's the substrate?
MDO. So I don't know if everybody's familiar with MDO. It's basically plywood with a thin layer of MDF on top of it. So you get the benefits of a very stable substrate with some structural integrity, which helps when putting like thread inserts or whatnot into it, screws.
Do you have 16 sheets of veneer or 4 sheets of veneer?
Depending on my mat, depending on how I want my layup to go, it can be anywhere from 4 to 25. It just depends exactly what you're looking for. In this case, it was 16, yes.
Each layer of the veneer is a mirror.
Essentially, yes, yes.
It's the same.
Mm-hmm. This is a conversion varnish, so a commercially 2-part catalyzed finish. Most durable finish you can get your hands on, basically. It was sprayed on too, if you want to know. Any other questions? I know I'm not the best at talking. I apologize. I don't have all the wisdom that Mark has. I just try to design and build elegant pieces of furniture. That's all I'm trying. I have one quote, and it's elegance is presence. If you build something elegant, or if there's something elegant in a room, it will have a presence about itself in that space. So that's what I try to design and build elegant pieces of furniture. So
Any other questions? All right, thanks.
thank you.
All right, so next we have Mike Berner. He made a table, a big table, if you remember at the show, called the Chanhassen table. Mike didn't bring it with him because I guess doesn't feel like lifting a whole table up the stairs. I guess I'll try to get it up the elevator. But if I think I had this right, Mike, you started as a grade school teacher? And then you started swinging a hammer and building houses. You fell in love with that rather than with kids, I guess, or teaching kids. And you're currently a full-time woodworking, building custom cabinets and furniture, right?
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
All right. So unfortunately, we don't have the table, but Mike's going to talk a little bit about his.
And I did make
Yes, sir.
a presentation, however, I did not bring a computer to share that presentation, but maybe we can work something out where I can send it out digitally, and if you have any questions about the table, go ahead and ask. But if you were at the show, my table is the walnut table. Really, it was a really special table to me. And like Mark said, and I think Cale hit on it a little bit too, it's the emotion behind it. It's the story behind it. 30 years ago, my grandfather lived in Chanhassen. He had 5 acres in Chanhassen, right across from Bandamere Park, if you are all familiar with that area. I used to go up and visit him all the time, and he had a little wood shop in the basement, and that's kind of where I started seeing woodworking happen. I worked with him a little bit. We kind of tinkered around. You know, it's when I started getting comfortable, just like the wood, the look of wood, and how it all worked together. He was really fascinated with different species and how the grain worked together and the structure of it and how it moved and all that stuff. So he chopped this. He had milled this this walnut tree down off of his property, stacked it, stickered it. 30 years. It had been drying. It had moved to Amory, Wisconsin, where he retired and continued to pick at it, building dressers and rocking chairs was one of his favorite things. You know, nothing was perfect, but he really enjoyed it, and I got to see all that happen many times when I'd visit. He passed away several years ago, and I inherited all of his wood. Like lots of his tools became mine, and then the stack of wood that was still stickered, still in really great shape, very dry after 30 years. But so I brought it back to where I live now in Chanhassen, just a few miles away. And through a few bumps and bruises with my career, I had ended up at St. Paul College taking a cabinet making program, and I used the walnut that my grandpa had cut down on his property to build this table that's now, it's pretty special to me. Let's see, what else can I say about it? A little bit about me, as Matt said, I was a grade school teacher. Just didn't love it. Decided that I liked my summer job swinging a hammer a little bit better. So I went into carpentry for 5 or 6 years, building some really cool things, houses, really custom stuff here and there. And then I got an opportunity to teach woodworking at the middle school, which is when I got involved with the guild. I had some students, show pieces at the Northern Wood Show several years ago. I think, Mark, that was the last time I remember your piece when I had students, the last time you were in it. I think it was the scarab piece that you had. Was that right? No. Okay. And I had a project in there as well. Again, that one was also from my grandfather's wood for my grandfather's American flag when he did the military honors for his funeral. Let's see what else. Then I was an editor after that for Family Handyman magazine, where I got to really kind of flex my woodworking skills, creating plans, writing articles, and making all kinds of cool stuff. I did have lots of things to show you, but anyway, that's fine. I think I made projects for that made it on the cover of like 19 of the magazines that I was involved in. So it's fun, and it was fun to share all that stuff. But so then this table, after I got laid off, I did the St. Paul College cabinet making, and now that's what I do as a profession. I'm a cabinet maker at Westwood Cabinets, doing some really fun stuff. If anyone remembers my table, if anyone has any questions, I know there was some bumps and bruises along the way. working with that wood, you know, milling it down in the amount of time I had to do it for my capstone project is what I used it for. After it glue up, the thing curled up on me really bad. I had to re-slice the joints and re-glue it up and re-mill it down. Yeah, I used a template for the legs. I domino machined them together, and yeah. Oh yeah, it was yeah. Thank you, Charlie. I'll speak to that. I don't know if you have dining tables at home that extend and have leaves. You always have to drag the feet across the floor to pull it apart. I didn't want that. I hate, that's the worst thing that I just can't, it's a pet peeve of mine. I have to call my wife and grab the other end, honey, and pull with me. So the table I built, it's got a base that's stationary, it doesn't pull apart, but the slides are attached to an apron, and they're equalizing slides run with a cable. So when you pull one end, the other end opens up equally, and then you can place your leaf in there. And that I got from Lee Valley. It just worked out really, really well. If anyone's building the table, I suggest that one. It's a good one. And then the leaf I made with the same details, it follows the same kind of curve around the top as the uncut top did. And the same undercut that I had placed on it, I cut into it, follows those same details. That stores beneath the tabletop on a pair of stretchers between the aprons. So yeah, I wish I had pictures to show you, but bummer. Is there any way I can send my little slideshow out through an email? I don't know if that's the thing or not, but if you're interested, let me know. I can. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. If you want to, I can send it to you personally if that's something you want. So, any other questions? Yeah.
On the design you pick, remind you of your grandfather. Any design that would.
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think that was more of my flair to it. You know, using my grandfather's lumber. That was my way to add something for me. I just like the kind of splayed legs. I like the trussel aspect of it, but I didn't want it kind of down low. I kind of raised it up so it was, you know, just at your knee level, but chairs could also slide under. Yeah, that was my little flair for my grandfather's wood. So.
You have got one left, and what's next?
I do have wood left, and he had a lot of it. You know, the slabs I used were like 2 1/4 thick, 14 inches wide. I only had to use 3 slabs for the top, and it was all beautiful curled burl, not burl, but like that crotch figure. It was just beautiful wood. I've got some maple left that got attacked by some bugs, unfortunately, and some cherry, and I've got a few hunks of walnut left. I'm not sure what's next. We'll see. No plans as of yet. So, and thanks for having me. Yeah.
Thanks, Mike. All right. Next, we have Greg Flanagan. And Greg, if you were at the show, he had the drum set piece there. Greg will tell you all about, I'm sure, the manufacturing process. I know he worked with Tom Shrunk on the veneering, and he likes to create all sorts of furniture and in collaboration with a lot of folks, right? Yeah. So, put away.
Hi, I'm Greg Flanagan. I joined the guild in 2000, but I still feel like one of the young guys. So, yeah, I worked with a lot of people to create this drum set. Drums and woodworking have been 2 of the things that I've been most passionate about for the longest in my life. I begged my parents for a drum set since I was like 5 years old, and I still play. So these get played. And my dad was a high school shop teacher. My mom taught home ec. So I was down in my dad's shop at, as early as I can remember with my own bench down there, messing around, building stuff, making air guitars for my fake band and that kind of stuff when I was a kid. But I've always wanted to build my own set of drums. So I called this one drum set number 5. I've only built one set, but it's the 5th kit that I've owned. So it's kind of like starting your checkbook beyond 0, So I mentioned Tom Shrunk and I have been working together on stuff for quite a while. I worked at a place called Sisyphus. We made coffee tables, and Tom did all the amazing veneer work for our custom coffee tables there. And that's where I got to know him really well. And since then, Tom and I have been working together on all kinds of things. And Tom is not one to shy away from new technologies if it makes the art better. We've been working together on a lot of different pieces, and I feel strongly that the tools you use to make your art don't make a difference. It doesn't matter what kind of tool you use, if you're using computer-aided machinery or if you're using hand tools. If it's compelling art and people are moved by it, that's all that matters in my book.
I think we need a fight between Mark and Greg. So it's big time.
And I felt that way for a long time. And I know that, a few years ago, Scott Grove came to the one of the shows that I showed a piece in, and there was a large discussion there about the same topic, which was, basically laser cut veneers cheating. And why should somebody next to me at the show be able to sell their piece for the same price that I'm selling mine? If I did mine by hand and he used a laser, why should they sell for the same price? And that is, which piece does the customer like better? It doesn't really matter how it's made. And if there's emotion in the piece, if it's a compelling piece, it doesn't matter how it's made. Wendell Castle is one of my heroes, and he was a strong proponent of computer-aided machinery. Used robotic arms to create some of his gigantic carved pieces. And so I strive to have the vision that Wendell does with some of my pieces, where he can see the shape and then backtracks through the fabrication techniques he needs to use to get there. Some of his pieces, frankly, could not be made in a lifetime if he had done them by hand. But he uses, the technology to create his art, and I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I work with a lot of people in the guild to do templates, to do pieces for their furniture, things like that. So I'll get off that soapbox. The drums, I'm floored with how they turned out. I saw Tom's piano, his Steinway, and was as amazed by that as anybody else who had seen it. And when I mentioned to Tom a couple of years ago that I wanted to build a set of drums, and that was my inspiration for what I wanted, he said, "Okay, when do we start?" And so we cut up thousands and thousands of 1-inch squares of mahogany, and laid them all out on a backer of mahogany veneer, and then worked with a local drum shell manufacturer up in Maple Grove. They do world-class instrument quality drum shells only. I know there's Keller Shells on the East Coast. They supply a lot of the big manufacturers with drums, but they also do like furniture grade. Nordic Shells up in Maple Grove does only drums. So we went and toured their factory to see how they do the drum shells there. And we're wildly impressed by their precision. If you look closely at this, the seams for the 8 layers of veneer, maple veneer on the inside, are as tight as possible, no gaps. They worked with us, so we brought them the 2-layer mahogany veneer that's on the outside here, brought it to them, and they laid that up flat with their 8 plies of maple, glued that all up, applied glue on flat on the table, and then took that whole stack and put it into their custom presses. So they have a separate size press for every drum size they make. So there's a 14-inch floor tom, 14-inch snare drum, a rack tom, and a 20-inch bass drum, but they've got presses that go from 8 inches up to 36 inches there. So we worked with them to make the shells. They did a fantastic job. Then I got them back and started the scary process of not drilling holes in the wrong places, because a lot of work had gone into the shells at that point. So fabricating the bearing edges, which is where the drum head hits the shell, is a main reason why good drums sound good and mediocre drums sound mediocre, is the care that's taken in cutting that bearing edge. So I worked on that, worked with a friend of mine who does automotive finishes on the finish. So this is an automotive polyurethane finish on the outside. And then the lugs are all handmade as well. I'm just super pleased with the way they turned out. I finished them about a week before the show, but managed to play them with my band before the show, and they sound great. The best sounding kit of drums that I've ever owned. Yeah, I'm a big proponent of collaboration. And I think that's part of why the guild exists, is each other. And the best way I know to learn from other people is to dig into a project together. And you get to know the person, you also get to know what, you get to learn what they're good at. And I've learned so much from working with Tom. I can't thank you enough, Tom, for the friendship and all the time you spent working on this and all the other things we worked on together. Any questions about the drums or anything else?
So your 1x1 squares, you put it together as a sheet. How were they joined together? Were they taped together when you come up there, or glued, or?
Yeah, so Tom did all the veneering, but correct me if I get this wrong, Tom, or if you'd like to explain it. But basically, they're all taped together, and then that whole tape sheet is then applied to a backer sheet of mahogany, correct? That's glued down to that sheet of mahogany. So then you have 2-ply, the squares on the outside and the full sheet of mahogany behind it. And then we brought that to the drum manufacturer, and they use that as the outer layer in their press.
So you're having veneer taping it together?
Yeah. Yeah.
Are there any other woodworking parameters or guidelines, design parameters that come into play to best sound quality from an instrument that you wouldn't have with information?
Sure. So in general, drums, high quality drums are made out of generally birch, maple, or they're made out of any species, but the majority of the high-end drums are made out of birch or maple, and it's because of the density of the wood. And if you take all the hardware and the rims and everything off of this and you hold it up by a finger and you hit it with a mallet, it rings like a bell, because it's the glue they use and the density of the wood and the tightness of all the seams and the density of the wood itself creates a resonance that you don't get from poplar or gum or something that would be less dense. Yeah.
How does that butt seam on the cylinder come together in the press?
So what they do is, as you can imagine, each layer has a different circumference. The inner layer is smaller than the outer layer. So they've got that down to the 1/10 of a millimeter. They cut each layer to the exact right size. So when they curl the whole stack up and put it in the press and turn on the hydraulics, they all just butt together perfectly. And you can take a look, you can see the seams, you can see where the glue lines are, but there is absolutely no gap. So it's a butt joint. No, just a butt joint, and they're staggered all the way around. So you can see the entire first inner seam, but then the next one is on the opposite side of the drum, and then a quarter of the way around, and they stagger that seam.
So they press it all at once.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow they just rotate, they offset the leaves and roll them up.
Right. So like if you take a stack of like these note cards from Mark, they lay them out so they're just a little offset like that. And then when they go to the press, they take this one, they roll it over, and they butt it up against the edge of that one. And then they take this one and they roll it around that one and butt it up against the edge of the next one. So they're just, and then they literally are hugging this thing as they walk it over to the press and then drop it in the press. And then when they turn it on, it basically, there's a chuck on the inside that expands out. The outside is a solid steel cylinder. and it presses all the leaves out, and they all just kind of lock into place. The glue squirts out the top, and it's a heat activated glue, but there's nothing special about like its viscosity or the way it slips. It's just the fact that they're exactly the right length means that as long as they don't put them in there wrong and have them overlapping each other, as soon as that press turns on, it lines them all up and hits those joints perfectly.
You said they put the seams up for each sheet, so is it a spiral then? It's not layers?
It is layers, but when they want all the seams to be offset from each other, you know, so they're not all in the same place in the cylinder. So they stagger that whole stack and then kind of roll it up from one end, one leaf at a time, and they butt that one to the edge of itself, and then roll the next one around and butt it to the edge of itself.
How is the glue applied?
Just a roller. They just dump on the glue. He's real good at knowing exactly how much to use for each layer. They roll it on, and then the excess gets scraped to the next layer. And when I watched him do a couple of them, he was within a quarter cup of the exact right amount for the whole stack of 8 leaves. There's 8 layers of maple, and then the 2 layers of mahogany on the outside. Yeah.
You're talking about either mahogany or birch, but I mean, maple or birch. Those are two things. Maple's pretty dense.
And they do have different sound qualities to them. So maple is more of a pronounced like mid-range, and birch gives you a lot more of that kind of attack of that high range. The same size drum, if they're made of 2 different types of woods, will have those different qualities to them.
I'm just kind of in my head, like, I'm sure they've done experiments with all different types of woods.
Oh yeah, different layers, and it's all cross-laminated, just like you would do plywood. So each layer is, you know, they cross-laminate each layer so that it's strong and doesn't warp over time. But yeah, there's all kinds of combinations, you know, people have messed with. Putting a layer of gum in there, putting, you know, alternating layers of poplar and a harder wood to get more of kind of a low tone, more of a less high-end tone. They also do shells, full walnut, or, you know, any kind of wood you want. They'll make an entire shell out of a single species, no matter what you want.
Maybe not the size of the drum. Would they use oak or poplar or gum on a larger drum?
Oh,
Maple on a smaller drum?
you would generally use the same for all the size. If you're making a kit, you would generally use the same formula of layers for each drum. Cool. Thanks for having me. Video where I was in the crowd there, and Scott used to work for him, and he was at the end of some rant about, you know, technology and this and that, and he like called Wendell and he was like, "So Wendell, wouldn't you agree with me?" And Wendell like took his time and stood up and he goes, "No, Scott, I don't agree with you at all." You know, I just got up and walked out. I was like, "That's all I needed to see."
It's all friendly.
Yeah, you know, I just firmly feel that it doesn't matter what kind of tool it is.
Yeah.
It's a tool that you
Yeah.
use to make art. You know, table saw, it has a motor on it, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm sure when those were invented, people were like, "That's cheating. Yeah, carve it by hand."
Yeah. It's all relative.
Yeah. Not sure what you know.